Welcome to Youth Talks, brought to you by State of Youth.
Hello everyone, today we've been joined by the finalists of ICPP who have been inspiring young children from around over the world, and we would love to hear about their journey and introductions.
Yeah, so could you please share to us a bit about your advocacy journey, how it started, what inspired you?
Sure. So I'll go ahead. So my name is Nihal. I'm 14 years old. I currently attend Monroe Township High School in Monroe Township, New Jersey, in the United States. So I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization called Recycle My Battery. So let me just share my journey quickly, how it all began, and why I even got inspired to actually start this organization. So my journey began 4 years ago, back in June of 2019, when I was just 10 years old. So I was sitting down to watch the news, and I remember seeing a story occur on the news that completely devastated me. I remember seeing a lithium-ion battery completely explode in a waste disposal plant in California.
Wow.
It caused unimaginable destruction, and it cost millions of dollars worth of damage. I clearly remember watching all the chaos and everything occur on that specific day, and it was super scary and horrific to see.
Wow.
So I felt very angry after seeing that, because I knew that Mother Earth was giving us so many nice stuff like food, water, air, etc., but we weren't doing anything nice back to Mother Earth. So after some research, after market study, and after finding out that only 1% of the people, I repeat, 1% of the people around the world know about the battery recycling process, and after finding out that over 15 billion batteries are thrown away each year worldwide, that was when I decided to step up, take action, and start an organization called R&B to actually promote battery recycling awareness to kids and people, and actually provide them with a safe way of recycling their used batteries to make the earth a better place.
That's such an inspiring story. And how old were you at this time?
At that time, I was 10. Right now, I'm 14.
You're now 14?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
It's so inspiring. My name is Anastasiia. I'm from Ukraine, and I'm a co-founder of YCO Suite, which currently runs 2 mobile applications. The first one we started almost 1.5 years ago, when the full-scale invasion started in Ukraine. We felt like really devastating, understanding that a lot of kids had to flee from war, and there are a lot of circumstances around the world that force them to do the same, and usually the kids don't have anyone to accompany them. That's why we needed to create something that will provide them with a communication tool, with basic things that will ensure their safety. That's how we just came up with our first application, and then we understood that lots of them, like especially Ukrainian young refugees, had already adjusted to the communities they're living in, and the problem is that lots of them still feel the sense of not integrating enough, and we followed like one more thing that just drove us to create a second application, which is like kind of more complicated, but it actually works on enhancing the communication inside of the new hosting communities. And right now they're both can be accessed on the marketplaces, and we really hope to make it worldwide, even though initially it was created for Ukrainians as our citizens.
It can be it can be used all over the world, because refugees are a very big problem.
That's what we understood, that there are many circumstances around the world, like natural disasters, other wars, and conflicts that force kids to suffer from what adults do. And that's really unfair, and they should be somehow protected, and we decided to use tech because like that's what dictates our world, and that's what we did.
So Anastasiia, this.
And for you, what was you saw the biggest challenge for these children faced in terms of integrating into communities in Europe? I would say predominantly, it would be for your application, for example.
It's hard for them to integrate because of different mentalities, different mindsets, and what we actually want to do is to make people communicate about the things that might be different from the perspective they're from where they are coming from, and just make some exchange of their thoughts and positions on certain maybe issues or not issues. Just make them talk about this and make dialogue or monologue about this.
Anastasiia, can you explain because this is such a great initiative, can you explain the entire process of how this submitted, or what's the submission process, and how this has affected the life of the different refugees?
From which stage?
From your development stage to where you are right now.
So we actually started as a kind of a project for a tech competition, but we were really passionate about what we did, so we decided to implement it. And we ran our first prototypes. We did our business plans. Now we are working on coding it to more advanced programming languages. Also, we founded the organization, so we will legally implement more further projects that will drive our mission. And yes, and since the September of this year, both applications are accessible on the Google Play and on the App Store.
That's great, and it's a great process to see developing and expanding, and it's really empowering. And what about you?
So, my story begins in about 2017 when I witnessed my father getting locked up into the back of a police van. And then from there, I started attending support groups. There's not many in the UK, there's not many worldwide for that matter, which is something I'm personally wanting to change. I'm wanting to get more support groups, but we'll move on to that in a bit later. Through that support group, I've started noticing that it's such a grey area in society having a parent in prison, although so common. In the UK, there's 300,000 children with a parent in prison. And yeah, I've started doing talks across the probation service, conferences, just talking about my experiences and ways we can change to make life better for those with an incarcerated parent, because it's such a grey area in society. It's heavily stigmatised, and yeah.
It's really an important issue, as you mentioned. It's that stigmatization that often affects the children massively. And to you, what is the biggest gap currently where children are left out? You mentioned, for example, the support groups which are not present.
Yeah, so like the biggest gap I'd say is sort of like, imagine having one parent and the other parent not being there, and so, and like, to put it in simplistic terms, it's like the loss of a parent. I've seen that being compared quite a lot. It's like having to grow up without that figure. So like personally, I grew up without my father, and there's certain things your father's meant to teach you. And I never got taught those things, so I've had to learn that myself throughout my mother. So I've said previously that my father is my mother, so she plays both roles, so to speak. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest gap, but it's not one size fits all, so it could be completely different for someone else.
And from a legislative perspective?
What, sorry?
From a legislation perspective, because you also do some policy work, what would you say is?
So, there's gaps everywhere. It's a grey area in society, so in a nutshell what that means is like, there's research done in that specific area. There's just not a solidified way of handling things. So with the probation service, for example, I work with the probation service in the UK to help benefit their legislation and how they work and how they practice to benefit the family. But with the biggest gap, there's loads of them. So the media is a big one. You've got the education system, and you've even got like just the general public of stigmatization. Like I've had personal death threats and had to basically reinvent myself, make a new life for myself because they'd found out what my dad's been arrested for. They sort of like paint with the same brush, if you've heard that saying before. So in a nutshell, what my father's done, I automatically got labelled with, which it's not true, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'd say there's loads of gaps, but yeah.
And it's a really empowering story that all of you have.
And one thing common in all these three stories is that you all three were inspired by an incident somewhere in your life. What would you tell or say to people who are going through the same things, or maybe much more difficult, but are incapable of taking the action? What would you say to inspire them, or what would you advise them?
So like, that's what I always tell young people. So I always tell young people to go out and become change makers. A change maker is nothing but doing something to create a change to make the earth a better place. So anything that you do automatically makes you a change maker. If you do something small, like if you see somebody throwing plastic onto the road, you're not supposed to do that. You have to step up and not be hesitant. So you have to like go up to the person who's doing that, educate them on how it's important to recycle plastic properly. That automatically makes you a change maker because you're actually doing something to make a change, to make the earth a better place. So that's why I always tell young people that they should actually join organizations, create their own organizations, or join movements so that they can actually help create a change to make the earth a better place. And I know all young people are capable. If they put in the passion, perseverance, and determination, they will be able to achieve it. That's what I always tell young people whenever I go to a conference or whenever I speak on stage. So I believe that young people are capable of doing anything.
It's about belief.
Yes.
Belief. And we have to be the first person that believe in ourselves. What would you say, Anastasiia?
I really agree with what you said, and what I think is that people should do what they're really passionate about. It can be like their story, their pain, and maybe like even something that makes them feel unfair or aggressive, and like just try to turn this aggression and sense of unfairness into the action. And that what will drive a really profound change.
And for you?
So something that I've noticed a lot, because we run the support groups and then do research based on the support groups, is a lot of children blame themselves and limit themselves because of the event that they've been through. So one message I'd like to say is that like it's not your fault, or like, you couldn't have changed things. Like, don't blame yourself for something that like you have no control over. And with the limiting themselves, personally, if you limit yourself, not to limit yourself really, because like a load of children limit themselves because they think, oh well, I'm just going to be like my father, or I'm just going to be like my mother. So and they're told they'll never amount to nothing. So once you're told it after a certain amount of time, you start to believe it. And then after that you just sort of go on a spiral. I want to try and stop that, because there's many celebrities out there that have had hard upbringings and things like that and still managed to succeed. Personal events like being part of the International Children's Peace Prize is, in my eyes, a pretty big achievement. So if I can do it, what makes it different for some other person, you know what I mean? No matter your limitations.
I totally agree with what you said, but often there is, as you mentioned, the issue of self-belief and agency. So how do you feel that children who may experience a difficult experience in their life, it affects their self-belief, and they don't even believe they have the agency to create a change or start their own organizations? How can you, in a way, inspire and potentially act as role models through your experiences for these children that feel that there is no place in politics for them, there is no place in human rights for them? What's your
question again? Like,
how can you basically inspire children who feel that they don't have agency to change things? They're drawn into a spiral of self-loathing and self-depreciation that does not allow them to take that action that you were mentioning.
And you guys broke out of all those spirals of self-loathing and all that. So how did you manage to do that, and what would you advise your younger self?
So like, can you kind of explain that even a little bit more, if it's fine?
So there's
Sure.
a lot of research which shows that, for example, economic circumstances, like for example, the lack of being able to find a job affects your ability to participate in politics because of your own view of yourself. So if you, for example, have very low self-esteem, you're not able to participate in, as you mentioned, activities and such, and human rights activities. So how can you, through your own experience, for example, your own personal example, inspire these children who are going through similar experiences, who are struggling with their own self-belief, with believing in themselves?
So Nihal, the first time you experienced the failure, first time when you were on this journey,
Yes. So like,
how did you do that? How did you overcome it? And
yeah.
what made you overcome it? And do you think that if there were 10 people in this room and they went through the same failure, everyone would overcome it? And if not, why do you think they don't? And what you can tell them to do it?
So if you're like going through an issue, so like let me just first talk about my issue, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. So like the main issue we had is when like in the initial start, we used to collect the used batteries from people's houses, and we used to give them to Staples and Home Depot. These are basically stores in the USA, like hardware stores and stuff. So like after a few months of doing this, they rejected us. They said like they wouldn't collect the used batteries anymore because we would give them way too many batteries, and that they would collect less than 10 batteries every day. We couldn't do that because hundreds and hundreds of batteries were piling up, and we couldn't go every day and drop off the batteries there. So that I was very disappointed. I didn't even know that if recycling my battery was going to even be successful, because I was bogged down after hearing that, because I didn't even know if we were able to achieve. So like, yeah, I didn't let that stop me. I did some research, and after a few weeks, I came across an organization called Call to Recycle. And after reaching out to them, they said that they would support us. They said that they would give battery bins for free and collect the used batteries and recycle all of the batteries for free. So similar to me, if you guys are, if all the your youth is if they're going through a challenge and if they're like disappointed, do not let that stop you. If you believe in something, then you will be able to achieve it. So the thing which I always tell the youth is failure leads to success. So for example, take me. When Staples and Home Depot rejected us, it might seem like a failure, but like it will still guide you to success. So that's what I always tell the youth whenever they're going through a hard challenge like this. And I always tell them that if they're going through any hard challenge, I'm always there. I can help them out. So yeah.
But they'll have to help themselves first.
Yeah.
To not consider.
I always like try to motivate them so that they can actually go through their challenges, and I use my challenges as an example so that they can get connected and they can actually overcome their own challenges.
Yeah, that's true. Anastasiia, what you're dealing with is obviously it's all over the world. There are so many refugees, and we hope that what you're doing reaches to these people. But these individual ethnic groups that are in Africa and in South Asia and everywhere, how would you tell them, these people from these refugee groups, to stand up and take initiatives like that?
Again, I think that success can be reached only when you're on the path, when you have your personal story behind it, and you should like really do what you understand, what you can relate to. And since like these people, they know what they potentially can fight for, they will come up with the most effective solutions. That's what we did, and we believe people all over the world can do. And in my case, for a long time, I didn't believe that I can make a change, because like, why? But for me, a really important thing was the community. Like once I got into the community that just like believes in you and supports some of your like even like small things, it just makes you feel just better about what you do. And it's important to work in a team, because in the different parts of your like work, you can get just upset, tired, and all of the stuff, and there should be always balance between these powers in the team. So that's why I think like our team is really cool, because we can just
It's about balancing
balance
the
and
passion
fluctuate.
with the emotionality as well. Like you're connected
Yes.
to something, a purpose.
Yeah, we can like balance each other's thoughts. Sometimes over passion, maybe. Sometimes just burn out, and we can just like make us join and do everything that we can do, and this like balanced thing always works.
It's like stronger together, the phrase.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. Because there were hard times for all of us, especially in the beginning when we all just had like to go around the world because of the war, and it was hard. And sometimes it just like there is nothing that can keep you doing. And yeah, and teamwork and your own responsibility for being an integral part of this team is what happens.
Wonderful.
And for you?
Yeah, so obviously it's very niche, my topic, but I feel like the support groups are definitely fundamental. They are very scarce, don't get me wrong. There's like a handful across the whole of the UK and God knows how many across the world. If you can't find a support group, speak to your local MP if you're in the UK, or a government body, to try and get one started or funded, because they are really beneficial. I wouldn't be the person I am today if it weren't for Time Matters. But also, if you can't get access to a support group, I think like mentally it goes one or two ways. You either rise to adversity, or you like sort of squander and you don't really know what, like fight or flight type thing. I try and gear more to like rising to the challenge type thing, so to speak, because I mean you're not really going to rise to like parental prisoners, but like stand up for it. Like in society it is really great, like I've mentioned, stand up for what you believe. Now I don't like, there's obviously specific routes to go down in like a respectable way. I don't mean sort of like going down causing violence and things like that. I mean just like speaking up and like having your voice heard. Like what I do is in a way speak about it to like media outlets. Media outlets get quite far. Same with your local government. Local governments will listen. Even your local universities. Like I work quite closely with Liverpool John Moores University, and we do quite a lot of research into this specific area to help benefit in the future. So that's the way I get over it. Like that's my sort of way to build yourself up, but also just like mentally coming over it as well. Some compare it to a grievance, like a loss. You're never really going to get over it. I don't want to break people's hearts, but it does get easier over the years. You do learn to handle it. And yeah, just try and mentally overcome. Just think small gains, marginal gains. You might have heard of them before, is where you do something small to create a big deal. I feel like marginal gains is definitely the one, but definitely support as well.
And now you're all here for the International Children's Prize, and huge congratulations for all your efforts and to more that may come. So what does this nomination mean to you? Is it a highlight of your work? Is it an extension of what you can achieve in the future? What does it mean to you?
So I'm very proud that I got this far. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, all of you guys. So this will really help us in number one, educating the youth, and number two, in our organization's success. So our main goal is to bring down the 15 billion batteries being thrown away each year worldwide to zero. And to achieve this goal, we have to educate as many people as possible on why it's even important to recycle or use batteries. So through getting top 3 in the International Children's Peace Prize, this will help us spread the word to even more people, millions and millions of more people, on the importance of recycling used batteries, so we can go one step towards our goal of bringing down the 15 billion batteries. And number two, my message to the youth is for them to become change makers and do something. Like, I always motivate them and tell them that they're the only people who can actually do something to make our earth a better place. So through this opportunity, through this wonderful, prestigious opportunity, my message will be heard all around the world, and I hope that more change makers will actually get connected to my message and actually try to do something to make the earth a better place. So these are the two biggest opportunities, and I hope that it will pay off.
It will.
I will. I know it will.
Yes, I think the same way that for us it's an opportunity to voice the issue we are fighting for, because sometimes it's just not noticed or underestimated, and we just try to make people understand that children shouldn't be responsible for what do the adults, because like kids are the future, and if you just don't care, it will pay off. And
it always pays off.
Yes, and also that's the story about every Ukrainian kid specifically, and but the power that kids may have, and how the adversity can drive a change, because like what we did, we turned it into something really valuable and useful, not only for us.
So personally, I feel this award, even being in the top 3, will give me the foundation I need to make such a great area light. As I said, it's very scarce, it's very not well known. It's very well spoken of, but not very well known, I'd say. People seem to have a lot of input, but not for the right reasons. So yeah, just to bring positive light to it, really, because it is such a negative situation, and it does affect really a big number of people. Like worldwide, if there's 300,000 in the UK, you can think worldwide there's millions, like millions of children affected by it, and it's constantly going up. So if I can start to make change for it, and this gives me the platform for it, I'll be ever so grateful.
Wonderful. So guys, we were joined by the finalists of ICPP 2023 in London, and it was so lovely to hear about their different journeys and inspiration, and how they're inspiring thousands of children around the world, and we hope for the millions of children around the world.
We're so grateful that you're here, and thank you very much for all your actions. It was really inspiring to hear your stories. We are Youth Talks from the State of Youth. Keep up to date with our posts and follow our social media.